G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to another edition of SuperCoach Edge, and of course another entry to Damo's Team Talk. And of course we are coming out of round 18, and we're getting ever so close to the head-to-head league finals as well, which is of course very, very exciting. So hopefully things went your way on the weekend. And in terms of myself, let's have a look how I went. So I ended up scoring a 2,235, which was below par, unfortunately. As you can see there, season rank dropping yet again. I've dropped out to the 3,024th rank overall, dropping 539 spots in total, which is very, very disappointing because, I mean, coming off the back of, quite a few players being out, I will admit I probably copped it a little bit harder than others, without being woe is me. I had Tookie Miller, I had Maxi Gawn, had Rankin, and Isaac Heaney. So I had 4 players out of my best 22 that, I had to sort of find a way to cover and, potentially trade out, all that sort of stuff. So let's have a look at my team, and I'll go through the moves that I made so you can see it visually here if you are watching us on YouTube. And in terms of the trade that I made, so I was down to 2 trades, so I didn't want to use both of those trades all in the one go, knowing that, we've got how many weeks after this? 5 weeks to really come home with a bit of a wet sail. So thought might be in my best interest to hold on to that last trade. Otherwise, I probably would have traded out Gawn, who I ended up holding, and ended up trading out Tookie Miller. So that was my one trade, and I traded him to Caldwell, knowing that obviously having the mid-forward eligibility Caldwell, I could throw him forward and use him really to cover Rankin whilst he's out. So that's the other player that I obviously held on to. He'll be my bench for another 3 weeks, unfortunately, but hopefully it bodes well for me and I'm able to, as I said, come home with a bit of a wet sail. Heaney, I ended up benching, obviously, and swung him into the midfield because I was able to use Dowling as cover for him, which, as it worked out, perfect timing. Scored that 101 for me. Good old Billy Dowling. Incredible work by the youngster, and was counting my lucky stars with that. On Friday night, I was able to put the emergency on Richards for 53, and I'm glad I didn't take that because otherwise I wouldn't have used Dowling. And Freddie Kruger, he was my cover for Gawn. Not ideal, only scored the 56, but I was hoping for around about a score of a 60, so I was like, you know what, could be worse, we'll lock that in. I did have the option of potentially having Jackson in the ruck and then rolling with another rookie, but I was like, you know what, if Jackson's in the ruck, Kruger's going to be in the forward line anyway, and I'm probably going to have to roll with him because, I've got no other player off the bench because Rankin's there, manning that spot on the bench. So it was much for muchness, really. Outside of that, let's roll through ever so quickly, line by line. Sheasel 75, below par, but owned by 60% of the competition, so is what it is. Nicky Dacos 89, and I put the VC on him because I was like, you know what, I think he was good enough to score well against the Cats. As we know, they've been conceding points to opposition mids in recent weeks, and didn't think they want to run a tag with him. I think they played Atkins on him for a little bit, and he was off. He had another night where he was off, just not hitting targets. Got ragdolled by Jezek Cameron, which is hilarious. Not so much as an owner and having the VC on him, but 89 below par. But again, it affects everyone because he's so highly owned. Luke Ryan 98, not hitting the heights of what he has been, but we'll take that. Wangden Miller at 98, he was on track for a nice score early on. Kind of pitted out towards the back end of the game, but again, we'll take that considering his average of 101.4. Houston finally bounced back with a decent game, turned up 114, and really flew on the face of those absolute imbeciles that have been, calling up SEN and, those people tweeting, saying Houston's going to be out, all that sort of stuff, which is just totally untrue. And I heard of, even people in our Discord saying that they had benched Houston off the back of him potentially not playing and being a late out off the back of those rumours. So really does annoy me seeing that sort of stuff, but good to see that he played and he scored well. Nick Martin, he just transformed into plugger all of a sudden. Scored a 142. Really, really welcome side considering those of us that have held him because he's had a bit of a lean patch. Only turned up once over the past 6 weeks previously, and that 142, incredible push forward, ended up scoring 4 goals, 26 disposals, 9 marks, 4 tackles, 3 free kicks, 4. So that was a welcome sight. For the midfield, Bontempelli 108. He was kind of my backup VC, so I was like, yeah, it is what it is. And Merritt was always my choice for captain. What I probably should have done in hindsight was put the VC on 0 and then rolled the C into my other option, which was Butters. And Butters ended up scoring that 120, which does hurt to see because, 38 points more than Merritt. It's a fair few points that I've missed out on extra there by not putting the VC on Merritt and the C on Butters, as I would have done. Merritt 82, as I said, he was disappointing. Sammy Walsh 95, Tom Green 93. This bloke is he's a Tom Mitchell clone, I think. Now, he racks up the pill, but just turns the ball over, doesn't have effective disposals, and almost needs like 40 disposals to get a ton. But yeah, we'll just have to persevere with him, obviously. Connor Rosie 105, just going from strength to strength as that sort of bargain pickup that I got almost, sub 400k, which is incredible. Sarong 99, below par again, but it is what it is. McKercher 79, had to play him. I obviously brought him in as my 23rd man, but with Heaney, Gawn, Rankin and the like being out, I needed to play him, which is totally fine. But he can't score a ton every single week, so he's just a first year player, much like Sheasel was last year, where he kind of ebbed and flowed at times. So that's just the nature of it. Revel was my emergency. He was sub, so thankfully I didn't bypass Dowling because I would have relied on Revel, who would have been the sub and played on field for me, and he would have had an 8, so that would have really hurt had that been the case. But thankfully, I backed in that my boy, I'm going to call him my boy now, Billy Dowling, just love his name. Maxi Gawn, as I said, he was covered by Freddie Kruger, 56. Tim English, 85. And I know there was some people out there that were thinking about, I think it was in the team sheets on Thursday, the live stream, someone was mentioning that they were going to put the VC on English, and I was like, I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't be trusting him. And despite the fact he was coming up against TDK and Carlton, by and large, who have been conceding points to opposition ruckman, I'm like, he's the last bloke I'd want to be backing in terms of ruckman, because he's so Jekyll and Hyde that, he can hurt you more often than not. So it is what it is. 85 for him. Sam Flanders, 106. Continued his ton run. He's been tunning up every single game of the year, so he's just incredible. Caldwell, as I said, 110, was a great trade-in, and glad that I've now got him. Zorko, 93, a bit below par. Luke Jackson, 116, is that number 1 ruck option for Freo with Darcy out. He'll be relegated again to the forward line, no doubt, with Darcy returning. And, his average is going to take a hit, but we're just going to have to be hopeful that he can kick a bag here or there, or, they manage Darcy on his return and he gets a bit more ruck time. Charlie Curnow, 89. So this was a nice score in isolation. But if you look, I was obviously there at the game. He ended up having, get this right, 10 scoring shots, kicked 3 goals, 7. 3 goals, 7. 11 kicks, 4 handballs, 10 marks. He was off his game, but at least he was kicking goals, kicking snags, which is the main thing. But it could have been such a big game. And it would have been a nice reward for those of us that have backed him in and brought him in recent weeks. Billy Dowling, 101, just incredible display from the youngster. Didn't really have a massive statistical game, it must be said. Like 20 disposals, 5 tackles, 1 goal. But yeah, just really, really good to see. And, I'd be quite happy to field him over the coming weeks whilst Rankin's out, or at least try and loop him with a Richards or a Kruger or someone. Because, he scored 67 the previous week, which again I would have taken this week. And I spoke about Joe Richards as well, 53. On the bench is my emergency alongside Rankin, who is on a bit of a holiday. And outside of that, that's my team. I think, as you can see, I was stunted by the fact that a lot of people have Goulden in their side. Goulden scored 140 odd. That's, on the players that I've got, like a Walsh, Green, Sarong, an extra 40 points that they've got that I've missed out on. So, there's that. And then there's the number of players in my midfield that tonned up. There was only 3. And the nature of the tons, they weren't big tons either. Like Butters, 120. Everyone else, 108, 105. Even across the park, like Nick Martin, 142. He was the only player that scored, outside of Butters, of course, 120 plus. So it hurts to see, but we can't do too much about it, really. With one trade up our sleeve, we could have, I guess, considered to bring in someone like a Cherry, which I would have been happy enough to do. Like if I was to do that now, for example, he'd beat up my price bracket anyway, but like Cherry 111, I could bring in Brodie Grundy, who went down 25k on the weekend again, because I think he's dropped over the past couple of weeks pretty majorly. But we'll back in Gorney. Hopefully he can come back over the next couple of weeks and really justify that, because if he doesn't, it's going to be slim pickings for me in terms of who I can really bring in. Break even for Grundy is 122 this coming round. So, yeah. So he was really the only one I was thinking about getting rid of. Like there's Rankin, but, we want to keep this trade up our sleeves for as long as we can, really. Whilst we've got cover, that's the good thing, is that it could be worse, really. We could be in a stage where we've got no cover whatsoever to, field the team. And, there were teams out there that had to gobble a 0 or, be forced to play a Revel or, a Graham, for example, who were subs. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment. So I don't think we're going to be using that trade. We're going to be keeping it for as long as possible. In terms of, let's probably go now for what we can do strategically, because obviously Heaney's back. So what we're going to be doing now is, I guess with Heaney back, what we could do is, it means it takes Dowling off field and we'll have a full complement in the forward line. But what we could also do is we could play Jackson in the ruck. We could... Oh, no, this isn't going to work either. I was going to say Wade to try and loop, because Collingwood, they play the 4th game. And Adelaide play the 1st game, so it's not going to work. I would need to... I'm not able to loop Dowling in the forward line because Rankin's obviously on the bench as well. And he would be my loophole, which I can't do. So I think we'll undo that, what we're attempting to do. We might just have to put the emergency on Dowling in the midfield, see how he scores, and then it's sort of assess from there. It would be ideal to have Dowling in the forward line, but I don't have that swing for anyone on the bench because Joe Richards and Rankin are mid only. So it's not going to work. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to use any swings or anything to try and loop players. Like, I'm not at that stage yet, which is annoying, but it is what it is. Virtually with the team, I'm just going to have to try and rely upon the VC and the C and hope that other coaches have more issues to deal with, like, if McGovern's still out, so on and so forth. So we'll just have to grin and bear it, really. In terms of our captain and VC, I haven't even looked at this at all. This is the first time I'm doing it. There's obviously Merritt as well. Do I back him in after a bit of a nothing game? Potentially. He scored quite well against Adelaide in recent times, 143, 136, 109. I suspect that Sam Berry is going to go to Merritt. Doesn't average the best against the Crows, albeit 2 of his most recent games have been okay. Both of those were at Marvel as well, but he's definitely one. Scanning down the list, Bont against the Cats is probably a good play, so I reckon I'll probably bypass Merritt. Bont scored 113, 146 and 141, and that most recent game was in round 4 against them, which is interesting. So he's definitely one. Of course, they're both on at the same time. The Bulldogs, Geelong and Port and Richmond games. So I was going to say Bont into Butters would be incredible, but they're both playing the same time, of course. Shit of a thing, the fixture. There's Flanders, who again he's on that ton run. He hasn't scored below 100 this season. Do we go for him? Scored 45, 113 and 125, which is most recently back in round 4, that 125. Heaney against the Lions. 68, 115, 103. Yeah, his scoring's been okay in recent times. He'll probably come back breathing fire, of course, in his first game back from that ridiculous 1 week suspension. But I think I'll have to either sort of pick or choose between Bont and Butters. Like I could go for a Walsh. He's a bit of an outsider against North Melbourne. Do they bring Phillips back into tag? Because Walsh's previous 3 games, 140, 81 and 129. I think I'll do that. I think I'll probably put the VC either on Butters or Bont. How did Butters go in those previous few against Richmond? Of course, they've been using Graham as that really weird tagger. 104, 158, 175. So I think I have to back in Butters as my VC. In terms of... actually, I don't think I will be able to. Because in terms of looping players... Oh, no, I can use Gorney. Sorry, what am I thinking? Yeah, I can use Gorn. Because I wouldn't be able to use... Rankin because he's playing the first game. Rawlinson from the Eagles plays the 3rd game of the round. So that's okay. I can use Gorn. So what I'll probably look to do is go VC Butters. The big question is, who do I put the C on, if that's the case? The other one to factor in is obviously Dacos against Hawthorn. 113, 41, 102. Hasn't been in the best form in recent games. Do they tag? Do they have a bit of, a tactic they want to run with, like previous teams have done against Dacos to quell him? Maybe. Yeah. But, tune into our weekly podcast, of course, and vodcast on YouTube, if you prefer to watch us, of course. We will be rolling through the captain options, the best captain options in our segment, of course. I am the captain now. So make sure to tune into that, and Liam and I will go through in greater detail as to who the best options are. So outside of that, ladies and gents, I think that is virtually it. But before we go, we might just have a bit of a check-in to our leagues. Of course, the overall Open League, SuperCoach Edge Open League, 899 players participating. And in this, we have Cheb's Titans, he's reclaimed number 1 overall. So well done to you, Nathaniel. Jimmy's Jacks, 45th overall in 2nd spot in our Legends Cup. Always Hungry, Dow or Never, Princess Chestnut, I Dream of Heaney, Beat Around the Bush, Zora Chiller, Five for Life, and Where Eagles Dare. I'm in the Cash League 1. I have held top spot, which is good to see. But for those people that are in the Cash League, you'll know who you are. Fighting for a top 8 spot, which, mind you, teams from 6th to 9th are on 40 points. And then outside of that, we have a team in Jono on 36 points. So it's going to be a very, very tight tussle if you want to finish in the top 8. And similar sort of thing with the SuperCoach Edge Cash League 2, which is, very, very tight. There's 3 teams from 8th to 10th on 36 points, a game outside 8, or at least, the team that's just inside the 8 is on 36 points, as well as the teams in 9th and 10th. So, there's only, of course, 2 rounds to go this coming round and round 20. for the regular home and away season for SuperCoach head-to-head leagues before finals, which is sort of the traditional setup, depending on if you've customized it. But outside of that, that is it, ladies and gents. So thank you as always for tuning in. If you're tuning in for the first time or one of the newbies, consider giving us a like, give us a sub, all that sort of stuff. Really do appreciate the support. And outside of that, if you have any comments, questions, everything else, hit us up in the comment section down below, or you can hit us up on Twitter at supercoach_edge. Outside of that, we'll catch you in the weekly podcast/vodcast, and we'll be there to do it all again. So we'll catch you then. Hopefully you had a great week. We'll see you then. All the best.